So in this video, I am recommending 12 sci-fi movies you can watch right now on HBO Max. Some you have heard of, some I genuinely believe you have not. And I will be honest with you about every single one of them. All other streaming platforms, details are in the first pinned comment below. That is where I keep them. So first up, we have got a 2023 sci-fi thriller that I want to be genuinely careful recommending, because it has a really good idea at the center of it, and the execution does not always match that idea.
Can you move objects?
I'm not good at it.
You need a teacher, Ro.
The movie follows this homeschooled teenager with psychic abilities whose mother has basically built an off-grid, paranoid, stay-invisible life around keeping them both safe. And that is a compelling setup. That is genuinely interesting. And the two lead performances, Mia Isaac and Jessica Francis Dukes, are both doing real work here. They are keeping you engaged in moments where the script is not really pulling its weight. But here's the thing with this movie. It keeps gesturing at a bigger world and then just does not go there. There's an organization in the background I wanted to know everything about. There are powers developing that I wanted to see pushed. There's even a group of teenagers introduced early on who basically vanish from the story. And every time you feel like, okay, now we're actually going somewhere, the film kind of pulls back. The director has a solid eye, the compositions are clean, nothing feels cheap visually. But the screenplay needed more time in the oven. It feels like a really strong pilot episode for a show that never got made. That said, it's under 90 minutes, and I've recommended movies on this channel with worse problems than this one. If you're in the mood for something low-key with a genuinely interesting premise, it's worth a watch for the performances alone. That movie is Gray Matter. Now, next up, we have got a sci-fi action movie from 2023 that I think represents one of the great missed opportunities in recent genre filmmaking. And I say that not to trash it, but because the concept here is so genuinely good that the execution frustrates me more than it probably should. The premise, Adam Driver plays a space pilot who crashes his ship, lands on what turns out to be Earth 65 million years ago, and now has to survive alongside the one other survivor, a young girl, while dinosaurs are trying to kill them. That is a movie. That is a fully loaded B-movie spectacular concept. And I will say, the third act does deliver some genuinely exciting sequences. A T-Rex, quicksand, a geyser, an asteroid shower, all landing in the final 20 minutes. But the problem is that the movie saves almost all of its best material for the very end, and by the time you get there, you have already spent close to an hour watching Adam Driver look mildly irritated at his surroundings. And I like Adam Driver. The man has intensity. The film just does not use it. The emotional thread between Driver and his young co-star is meant to be the heart of the movie, and it is rushed to the point where you intellectually understand what you're supposed to feel without actually feeling it. It borrows a lot from Jurassic Park, which is fine, but it does not have that film sense of wonder or danger. Still watchable, just go in knowing that the fun stuff is concentrated at the end. That movie is 65. Now here we have got something completely different. This is a 1979 David Cronenberg film, and if you already know who Cronenberg is, you know exactly what you are in for. And if you do not know who Cronenberg is, I would say this is actually a pretty good entry point into his work. Not his most accessible, but one that shows you clearly what his whole deal is. The Brood works on two levels simultaneously. On the surface, it's a horror film with creatures, with dread, with Cronenberg's signature approach to the human body doing things it absolutely should not be doing. And underneath that, it's this cold, clinical examination of psychoanalysis, of what parental conflict does to children, of how emotional damage does not stay neatly internal. It manifests. That's the whole film, really. The mystery in the first 40 minutes is well crafted. You're putting pieces together, and when the revelations come, they land hard. There's a schoolhouse scene that I would put among the most unsettling sequences in 1970s horror. Not because of gore, just because of a specific wrongness that Cronenberg nails. I will say the film is not fast and it's not warm. His early work is famously cold and Kubrick-like in the way it treats characters more as subjects than people. But the final 20 minutes are genuinely shocking in a way that earns the slow build. Not for everyone. Absolutely recommended for anyone who has burned through the obvious horror canon and wants something operating on a different frequency. That movie is The Brood.
Crashed into the ocean 300 years ago and it's completely intact.
That's right. And the kicker is, something's still running inside.
So next we have got a late 90s sci-fi thriller that I genuinely wish had been a better movie because the premise is one of my favorites in the genre. An expert team, a psychologist, a mathematician, a biochemist, and an astrophysicist, gets assembled and sent to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean to investigate a massive spacecraft that has been sitting there for nearly 300 years, still intact, still humming, and inside it they find a sphere, a perfect, enormous golden sphere that no one can explain. That is a movie I want to watch from beginning to end. And for the first act, you really are watching a good film. The descent, the discovery of the ship, the early exploration, there is genuine tension there. And the cast is Dustin Hoffman, Samuel Jackson, and Sharon Stone, all doing their level best with the material.
Its name is Jerry.
He's happy.
And then the movie starts losing the thread. The plot shifts direction multiple times. Characters spend extended stretches just expressing confusion at each other, which is relatable but not exactly cinematic. The special effects, and I say this charitably, look like a television movie that spent a lot of money. The underwater exterior shots have this quality of a model that someone built and wanted you to appreciate. And the genuinely interesting themes, humanity being too immature and fear-driven to handle real cosmic truth, the film keeps pointing at those ideas without ever really leaning into them. Worth watching for the cast and the concept, just manage your expectations going in. That movie is Sphere. Alright, now I know what some of you are thinking. This is a YA dystopian franchise conclusion on a serious movie list. And I hear you, but I have been recommending this one quietly for a while now because the action filmmaking here, specifically from director Wes Ball, is better than it has any right to be. The opening of this movie is a 10-minute train robbery/car chase that hits with a real physical, gritty weight, the kind of raw, practical energy you usually have to go to Mad Max Theory Road to find. Things feel like they are happening in real locations, in real space, with real consequences. The sound design in this film is massive, and there are several other action sequences, a crane and bus set piece, large-scale shootouts that are legitimately well constructed. Yes, this is the third film in a series, and it drops you straight into the action with no recap, so if you have not seen the first two, you will be somewhat confused for the opening stretch.
How many kids do they have to round up, torture, kill? When the hell does it stop?
It stops when we find a cure.
And yes, Dylan O'Brien's lead performance is more determined than interesting. But the supporting cast in this movie is almost comically stacked. Walton Goggins, Giancarlo Esposito, Barry Pepper, Rosa Salazar, people who did not need to be in this movie and are absolutely elevating it anyway. I will say the film runs a little long and has multiple endings before it commits to the actual ending. You'll feel it when you've crossed into overtime. But everything before that is a legitimately exciting watch. That movie is Maze Runner: The Death Cure.
We burned almost every physical book in the country.
So next up, we have got HBO's 2018 adaptation of Ray Bradbury's novel, and I want to recommend this one with full transparency about what works and what does not, because there is a genuinely good version of this film flickering inside the one that got made. What works? Michael B. Jordan is watchable in almost anything, and this is no exception. The visual design of the world is striking, and the addition of a state-run social media platform, basically Twitter projected across skyscrapers, real-time emoji reactions to book burnings, public shaming as entertainment, that modernization actually lands. It feels uncomfortably accurate in a way that Bradbury probably would have appreciated and also found deeply depressing. What does not work? The film never quite gets inside Montag's head. For a story about a man slowly waking up to the horror of what he has been participating in, you need to feel that internal fracture happening, the cracks forming, the old certainties giving way, and the movie kind of glosses past all of that in favor of looking cool. Sofia Boutella is also underused in a role that should carry real weight, and the romance between her and Jordan's character does not earn its moment. The ending goes darker than Bradbury's, and I think less earned for it. But in 2026, watching a film about government-mandated censorship and a population that actively cheers the burning of information, it lands with a particular sharpness that maybe makes it worth revisiting, even with its flaws. That movie is Fahrenheit 451. Hey, real quick, if you are getting value out of lists like this one and you have not subscribed yet, now is a genuinely good time to do that. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, it helps other people find the channel and it keeps me making these. Alright, back into it. 4 more movies to go.
3 years ago, the world we knew disappeared overnight.
Alright, so now I have got a 2024 post-apocalyptic creature feature for you that I think a lot of people slept on, and I want to make the case for it. The premise is that creatures emerged from the ground a few years back and wiped out 95% of the human population. But here's the twist. They will not hunt you above 8,000 feet elevation, so the survivors are living in mountain communities in the Colorado Rockies. And Anthony Mackie's character has to descend below the safe zone to get resources for his sick son. Now, I will say this is not a movie that is trying to reinvent the genre or surprise you with its structure. It moves like a video game side quest. Go to a new location, find what you need, survive an attack, move on. If you need your genre films to subvert expectations, this one is going to feel a little familiar. But sometimes a genre film that just works is exactly what you want. The cinematography by Shelley Johnson is genuinely beautiful. That Colorado landscape used to create something that feels warm and gorgeous and somehow still threatening. Anthony Mackie and Morena Baccarin are solid, believably carrying the weight of people who have been through something hard. And Maddie Hasson as a close family friend is the real standout in this cast. She plays his character with a specific kind of stubborn hope that gives the film more texture than you might expect from its premise. 90 minutes, tight, does not overstay, legitimately entertaining. That movie is Elevation. Now, this next one is the English language debut of Greek director Yorgos Lanthimos, the same guy who went on to make The Favorite and Poor Things, and it is one of the strangest, funniest, and most deliberately uncomfortable films I have ever sat through. I mean that as a compliment. The premise is being single is illegal. If you end the relationship, you have 45 days to find the new partner at a government hotel. Fail, and you get turned into an animal of your choosing. And the film presents all of this completely deadpan, as though it is entirely normal, which is both the joke and the horror. Colin Farrell plays the lead, a baffled, obedient, slightly soft man who has just been broken up with, and he is genuinely funny in this, in a way I did not fully anticipate. He plays obedience and defeat with a kind of baffled commitment that works perfectly in Lanthimos' cold, flat world. Rachel Weisz narrates in a monotone that sounds like a child doing an impression of a documentary. It should not work, it completely works. Lea Seydoux shows up in the second half leading a group of people who have opted out of the whole system, and she is charismatic and terrifying in equal parts. I will be honest, the second half of the film is less focused than the first. The satire gets a bit more diffuse once the setting shifts. But the film commits to its premise without flinching and delivers an ending that refuses to give you any comfort whatsoever. In a landscape of movies that tie everything up neatly, that's kind of a breath of cold, sharp air.
The average person touches their face 3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching.
Now, I am gonna guess that a lot of you know this next one, or at least you know of it because this was the movie that every single person suddenly watched in 2020 when the world shut down. But here is my pitch for watching it now, with some distance from all that. Removed from the context of living through a real pandemic, what Contagion actually is a masterclass in procedural thriller filmmaking. Steven Soderbergh directs us with a kind of total controlled precision that I find genuinely impressive. The ensemble cast, Matt Damon, Gwyneth Paltrow, Lawrence Fishburne, Kate Winslet, Jude Law, is enormous, and he manages all of them across multiple storylines, multiple countries, without losing a single thread. The film gives the scientific method real weight. Watching Jennifer Ailes' character in a lab actually working, actually failing, actually trying again, it is more tense than most action sequences in movies with 10 times the budget.
On day 1, there were 2 people, and then 4, and then 16, in 3 months.
Jude Law subplot, where he plays a blogger pushing misinformation and conspiracy theories about government and pharmaceutical companies, I will say that is the one part of the film that feels a little unfocused. It knows that element is important without quite knowing what to do with it. But everything else is airtight. And yes, it will absolutely make you want to wash your hands while watching. I consider that a feature, not a flaw. That movie is Contagion. Alright, so if you want to start an argument at a dinner table, just bring up Prometheus. People have very strong feelings about this movie. Ridley Scott directing a film set in the same universe as Alien, following a crew in 2093 who traveled to a distant moon because ancient cave paintings from multiple unconnected civilizations on Earth all point to the same star system. They want to find whoever made us. And what they find there, the scale of it, the silence of it, the specific weight of standing in something that was clearly built by something else, is visually one of the most stunning sequences in recent science fiction. Michael Fassbender's David is, in my opinion, the best thing in this movie, and one of the great android characters in sci-fi film. An artificial intelligence who has modeled himself on Peter O'Toole in Lawrence of Arabia, who seems to have motivations the film deliberately withholds from you. He is fascinating every single moment he is on screen. Numi carries the emotional weight of the film with real commitment, and there is a surgical sequence in this movie, I will not describe it, that is one of the most viscerally uncomfortable things Ridley Scott has ever put on camera, and I say that as someone who has seen Alien multiple times. The criticism of this film, and it is valid, I am not going to dismiss it, is that several characters make decisions that simply do not hold up to scrutiny, decisions that would get you removed from the scientist program. And there are questions asked in this film that are never answered, which is intentional but will frustrate a certain type of viewer. But the big ideas here, who made us, why did they do it, what did they want from us, are the kind of questions Golden Age science fiction was built on, and Prometheus asked them with a budget and a visual ambition to match. That movie is Prometheus.
If I told you about her, the princess without voice.
Guillermo del Toro won the Oscar for this one, Best Picture, Best Director, 2018 ceremony for the 2017 film. And I think the reason it genuinely divided people, because it did divide people, is that it asked you to commit fully to something earnest, completely and vulnerably earnest. And a certain kind of film culture does not always know what to do with that. This is a fairy tale set in 1962 Baltimore. A mute woman who works as a cleaner in a government research facility formed a connection with a creature brought in for study, something discovered in the Amazon, something that is clearly conscious, clearly feeling, being treated with casual cruelty by a man who sees it as nothing more than an asset to be controlled. Del Toro builds this world almost entirely out of color and texture, and a specific kind of longing. The production design is incredible. Elisa's green-tinted apartment above a movie theater, the cold fluorescent brutality of the research lab, the antagonist's aggressively perfect suburban home. Every single environment in this film tells you exactly who the people living in it are.
When he looks at me, he does not know how I am incomplete.
Sally Hawkins gives a completely physical, gestural performance, not one word of dialogue, and communicates everything. Richard Jenkins as her neighbor Giles is heartbreaking in the quietest way I can describe. Michael Shannon as the villain is a specific brand of mundane, institutional evil that I personally find more frightening than any monster. Is the second half a little slower and more episodic than the first? Yes, it is. Does the film lean into its own fairy tale sweetness in ways that will not land for every viewer? Also yes, but it knows exactly what it is and commits to it completely, and I think that commitment is worth a lot. That movie is The Shape of Water.
Want to drive?
Yeah, I want to drive.
Just stay in the middle.
I know.
And for the top spot on this list, I am going with the most recent movie here, and the one I want to tell you the least about, because the less you know going in, the better this one is going to hate you. Here's what I will say. It is a 2024 thriller. It is set on the real Caddo Lake on the Texas-Louisiana border. This swampy, dense, genuinely strange location that has actual local history behind it, and the film uses all of that atmosphere. Dylan O'Brien and Eliza Scanlon lead the cast, and both of them are doing something really committed here. The material asked a lot of them emotionally, and they meet it, which matters because the script does not always make things easy on the audience. The film is produced by M. Night Shyamalan, and I say that not as a plot spoiler, but as a calibration. If you know Shyamalan's fingerprints, you will understand going in that the film is building towards something, that connections you cannot quite see are being drawn underneath the surface, that things are not entirely what they initially appear to be. Whether or not the final explanation fully satisfies you will probably depend on the kind of viewer you are, but the feeling this film builds, the dread, the strangeness, the specific grief that runs underneath both storylines, that part genuinely works. It starts as something that feels like a blue-collar Southern drama, a real slow burn, and then it becomes something else, something that operates more on emotional logic than procedural logic. See it without spoilers. Do not look anything up. Just go in. That movie is CADDO Lake. Alright, so that is 12 movies, and I genuinely believe there is something on this list for everyone watching. As always, streaming links for every movie on today's list are in the first pinned comment below. If you like this kind of recommendation, like the video. It genuinely helps other people find the channel. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next one.